Now, also, obviously, over the weekend, and I guess I have a personal interest in this, which you all know about through my son, but thousands of New Zealanders with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, have been affected by a shortage of a common medication. Over the weekend, it was reported that supply problems have hit the Teva brand of something called methylphenidate. You and I would better know it as Ritalin, which is, I think it's one of its original brand names. Methylphenidate's the chemical compound, but I think the brand name was originally Ritalin. Anyhow, with Pharmac citing global demand for the shortage, and that has meant that a number of people have been shifted onto alternative medications that may not be good for them. The reason why there are a whole different type of ADHD, ADD medications in New Zealand. There's something called Teva. There's another drug called Concerta. There is Ritalin. There's Rubifen. There are a whole series of different drugs designed to assist and aid those folk who have ADD, ADHD in this country. But there are other issues, and which are highlighted by this lack of supply in New Zealand. And to join us to talk about them is the chairman of New Zealand ADHD New Zealand, I think it is, the chairman, and we've talked to him before, Darrin Bull, and he joins us now. Darrin, welcome to the show. Love to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning.
First of all, the last time I talked to you, you were in Auckland. You've moved to Waikanae.
Yes, we finally escaped. I moved down here for a job, and it's just so great to leave Auckland. And I'm sorry for your listeners who are still in Auckland, but there are no traffic issues in Auckland. It's a beautiful part of the country, Kapiti and Waikanae, and no regrets whatsoever. No regrets.
Is that the primary problem of living in Auckland, that it's just traffic?
For me, I just got sick of Auckland. It was traffic. It was the fact that it felt like infrastructure wasn't improving. I lived in a one-way cul-de-sac street of only 4K, and they had consent for 51 houses to be built in, and with no public transport, I think that probably meant 100 cars added to that. So it just doesn't seem to build that infrastructure well. And it rained a lot last year.
Yes.
And it doesn't rain so much in Wellington, believe it or not.
Well, you're not in Wellington, to be fair. You're in Waikanae. So that's a refuge from Wellingtonians from Wellington.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is, and it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, good on you. Yes, and so you look out from Waikanae, just Kapiti straight across the strait, isn't it? Kapiti Island.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 8 minutes drive to Paraparam and about 45 minutes on Transmission Gully to Wellington.
Yeah, and Transmission Gully's made a hell of a difference to Wellington. It's ironic.
Oh, yeah, very clever.
Well, it's interesting. A former mayor of Wellington, Fran Prendergast, actually was very opposed to the building of Transmission Gully because she said it would do exactly what you've just said, and that is that Wellingtonians in particular would find an excuse now. They basically had an escape to head for Waikanae and areas north to live. And I suspect she was right. All right, mate, that's not what we're talking about this morning. You are chairman of ADHD New Zealand. Can I just ask you, just quickly on that, I always get it confused, so I don't know. What's the difference between ADD and ADHD, or isn't there one?
No, there is a difference, and to sort of do it from a medical perspective, and I'm no doctor, ADHD is your typical type of energetic little boy. It's called ADHD type 1, and it's really where the cliche is. It's 90% male, they energize, have issues with emotional regulation, and the hyperactive. ADHD or type 2, or which used to be known as ADD, is in the same part of the brain, but it's the opposite, where you're so hyperactive, you can tune out, you can sort of lose focus and things like that. That's 90% female. So for my sins, I have one of each. I have a very hyperactive about to say little boy, but he's 19, and my daughter also has ADHD type 2, and she can lose focus and just drift into her brain a little bit.
I think I've got stage type 1 in my family, but I have met type 2. You're absolutely right. Those are mostly girls. They're not hyperactive. As you say, they sort of, people say, oh, they're dreamy. But what they do is they look out the window during a school lesson, and the whole school lesson's finished by the time they've brought themselves back from wherever they've been. Yeah?
Yeah, correct. And they're easily forgotten in the schooling system because all the attention goes to the hyperactive ones. And even as a parent, I was so focused on helping my boy that we kind of forgot my girl. I hate to say it. Hopefully she won't listen to this. And then, when you start to realise she had another variation, it's like, damn it. Yeah, it's very easily to happen. And the renaissance in ADHD over the last couple of years is very much about women understanding they've got ADHD and the type and how it works. And there is no difference. That's 5 to 6% of the population. It makes no distinction between genders, so it's both ways. Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, when I was growing up, we just knew there were naughty boys, mostly naughty boys, and dreamy girls, and nobody got a diagnosis at all, obviously, and they left school usually without any qualifications, and I imagine became naughty or dreamy in their adult lives. Things have changed. Roughly what stage did New Zealanders become aware that there was something called ADD, ADHD, and at what stage, can you remember, Darrin, did they start prescribing medication as a partial solution?
So to answer the last question first, I know back in 1998, 1999, there was medication prescribed, and that was Ritalin. And then there was an overreaction to a scandal in the US where university students were allegedly getting Ritalin to help focus during exams, and that blew up here as well. And at the time, there was no evidence, but the government of the day then moved to put a lot of controls around the regulation and supply of ADHD medication.
So that's why it was back late 90s. Yeah. And
there was one doctor, Dr. Tony Hahn from Auckland, who said, guys, you shouldn't be doing this. It isn't a problem here. We're going to have problems in the future. And 20 years later, he's been proven very correct.
Is he the doctor that's been prosecuted by the Ministry of Health and the police for prescribing without psychiatric backup?
Yeah, so he has been prosecuted, if that's the right word, by the Medical Council.
Right. Did they strike him off?
Yeah. They're not up to that stage yet.
Right. So,
and we're very supportive of Tony. Notwithstanding, we don't support anyone breaking the law, but he has done some great things for the ADHD community and stood up for them when perhaps nobody else did.
No. So let's just quickly get the retrospect here. And for people who are listening and not sure, this is a psychological disorder or a psychiatric disorder. And I use the word psychiatric.
Kind of.
Well, it's psychiatric in the sense that you can control or at least ameliorate some of the worst side effects through drugs, but they have to be prescribed for you, not by a GP, but by a psychiatrist. Correct. Now, that's the next issue I want to talk to you about. So the availability of psychiatrists in this country is appalling. I know, because I've tried both child and adult. I've tried to get them myself for a client, for an adult psychiatrist, to get for a client that I had, and then also for my own son, child psychiatrist, who's required to sign off his medication every 2 years. Impossible. So correct. How, if I've got ADHD and I'm manifesting the symptoms, do I actually get the access to the medication that will actually help? Yeah, so this is like one giant own goal in our medical system here. So to be clear,
first of all, you need a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist to diagnose you, but only a psychiatrist can prescribe medication for you.
Yeah.
And they do that through the special authority process, which has to be renewed every 2 years. There is a massive shortage of specialists in this area who can help our community, let alone understand ADHD. And just to do a shout out for our website, adhd.org.nz, we have a list of the specialists in New Zealand who understand ADHD and are able to take patients. At the moment, we are aware that there's waiting lists in some areas of New Zealand 8 to 12 months plus.
Yeah.
And indeed, as I talked to someone a month ago, they were in Nelson, my suggestion was find your way to Auckland and go private.
Yeah, that's a tragic. That's a tragic solution, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And in fact, just before COVID, someone worked out it was cheaper and quicker to go to Sydney because air prices were much cheaper than to try and find someone in New Zealand.